Hello, welcome to another English Sparkling with Tweedy video. Today, more wine from Nyetimber. I know I feature this producer quite a lot, but I'm quite fond of them. This is another one of their Blanc de Blanc vintages, but I don't think I have featured this before. I think I've done the 2014, the 2015. This is the 2016, and it was chosen more or less on a whim based on what was available currently in the Jeroboams in Hampstead, where I popped to just now, and it seems Nyetimber also have a bit of a special offer on. So normally these are a little bit on the pricey side, the vintage Blanc de Blanc releases from Nyetimber. This came in at £42, which is still not a bargain by English wine standards, but you know, for a vintage release from Nyetimber, probably decent sort of a price. As I probably always say, given a choice, Blanc de Blanc is not typically my favourite style of English sparkling. I tend to prefer the Blanc de Noir, whether that's available. I don't think Nyetimber have ever done a Blanc de Noir. Apologies as always for the subpar stemware. So there's this lovely autumnal late afternoon light pouring down on me. I've got this lovely golden light, and the the forest floor is littered with that terre de bois, whatever you call it, sous-bois. And that's a nice pale gold colour. You'd expect it to be relatively pale, given it's 100% Chardonnay. Nice, healthy stream of bubbles there. Actually, before anything else, I'm getting a nice kind of toasty sort of note to that. Toasted tea cakes kind of thing. There's definitely some autolytic character. A nice, sweet and not particularly yeasty sort of autolytic character. So something like the classic brioche or toasted tea cakes. What are those Sally Lunn buns in Bath, that sort of thing. Nice sort of bakery kind of aroma. And then poking through that, bit of citrus, bit of green apple. I think we'll get some more fruit character out with a bit more swirling. It's broader than just green apple as well. I'm getting other kind of orchard fruit notes there. Possibly veering a little bit towards the pear, maybe, I don't know. On the palate, I would say that is nice and bright, perhaps going more lemony in terms of the fruit character rather than appley as it was before. Definitely getting some mineral, slightly saline almost notes. Hints of sort of lemon rind. There is perhaps it is a bit more citrus, sort of, yeah, lemon rind. Preserved lemons in a jar. You get sort of jar of sliced lemons. Is that perhaps are they designed for putting in gins and tonics if you can't be bothered to keep a fresh lemon, slice it up on demand. I decided to move back to this more familiar spot because there were at least two other people over there. Well, I was nicely in the sun, it was delightful, but there were a couple other people doing some sort of social media nonsense. What a time to be alive. Anyway, back to the Nyetimber Blanc de Blanc. So on the nose, I am getting a little bit of that familiar aroma from that Nyetimber classic cuvee. It's a little bit honeyed, a little bit citrus, a little bit, there's that sort of brioche, pastry-ish kind of baked component to that, the autolytic side of things. On the palate, the first thing that comes to mind really seems to be sort of bitter lemon. Not really getting a huge amount out of it flavour-wise, other than that sort of bitter lemon style. Surprisingly bitter, quite citrusy now. Still nice effervescence to it, nice texture on the palate, nice mouthfeel to that. Almost wonder if this actually needs a tiny bit more sweetness, possibly. Something I rarely would say, but perhaps in a different mood it might be quite appealing. It is quite appealing, but it might be very appealing in a different mood. But actually in the current state, I would say that's gone a little bit overboard. Really is surprisingly dry on the palate, like a little bit more sort of gentle fruit expression rather than that quite biting sort of bitter lemon character. But I think that is part of the safety net that a classic cuvee brings to a wine. We get that sort of roundedness from the different fruit characters, from the different grapes. A single varietal can always be a little bit one-dimensional by definition. It's certainly okay, it is drinkable, but it's not quite how I remembered these Nyetimber Blanc de Blanc from some time ago. I've got a feeling one of the other ones I tried didn't feel quite right somehow. I don't think this is faulty. I'm always so frustrated by wine faults whenever I encounter them. They're so incredibly subtle and nuanced, and I'm in this constant sort of limbo of, is this faulty or is it meant to be like this? Do you think on the palate I want a little bit more fruit expression? It's got this bitter lemon notes, quite mineral, quite saline actually, but then I want to sort of have a sort of more rounded palate. The official tasting notes talk of creaminess on the finish, and I'm not sure I'm really getting that. So yeah, I don't know. I almost thought previously I got a little whiff of struck match on the nose, but when I come back to that now, that's not there, and that nose is quite pleasant. It is, as I said earlier, that sort of classic Nyetimber thing of honeyed, lemony pastry. Still on the palate, just a little bit too bitter and angular, something like that. I slightly wish I'd gone for just the regular classic cuvee now, but I've reviewed that so many times, can't keep covering the same thing. Maybe it's just me, perhaps I'm just having a funny palate day. I did have a Greek coffee after lunch, sort of, the one with all the kind of sediment at the bottom, and perhaps that's just done something weird to my palate and I'm not really appreciating this the way I should be. Yeah, maybe it's just me. I don't know. Anyway, cheers.